recommendations. In a nutshell, what exactly are they saying?
It's so difficult to talk about something that's complex in a 10-second soundbite. But one of the things that goes through all of what the governor said, and this is true of much of this discussion, involves taking a snapshot of this retirement system. When, as the governor said, it was a perfect storm, or Mr. Shaw said it was a perfect storm. The stock market had the biggest drop in the history of the system. We're in the worst economic times in the history of the system. Our payroll is artificially low. If you look at the number of state employees, the number of school teachers, the number of local employees, the amount of payrolls, cities, counties, states, schools, community colleges, all of that put together, the amount of those payrolls is artificially low. So when you impose a percentage on an artificially low payroll, you get in less money than you normally would. So the answer to many of the comments that were made is this is an unusual time. I'll give you some examples. There's the repeated reference that over the past 10 years, the system's earned 5.4% a year, or whatever the figure was. But over the life of the system's earned 9% a year. The system assumes 8%, which is 1% less than what it's earned from the beginning of the system until now. There's been discussion of a 3% cost of living thing. The amount, or cost of living factor. I guess I shouldn't say the cost of living thing. That doesn't sound too formal. But the 3% figure is less than the average. You can argue that it should vary from year to year, but nevertheless, long run, that 3% figure is less than what you would have otherwise. So in a number of areas, the system has adopted assumptions that are more conservative and more pessimistic than the history of the system over its existence. It's true that if you look at this brief period of time during which there's been the stock market collapse and the economic collapse, things don't look good right now. But things are getting better. I'll give you an example. The actuaries said a couple of years ago, right after the stock market crash, that we would have to have an employer's contribution rate of 18%. A year later, they were saying you'd have to have an employer's contribution rate of 16%. Now they're saying you've got to have an employer's contribution rate of 14%. Those figures keep changing because the stock market is rebounding. I think the bottom line is it would be a mistake, in my opinion, to take some immediate action, not fully understanding the implications of it. We need to wait until the economy gets to a more normal situation. And the most prudent thing to do, in my opinion, is to leave things alone for a few years. Even if I'm wrong, waiting 3 or 5 years to do something is not that bad a proposition. But the proposals, if we take the steps they want us to take right now, we're cutting what people have been promised, and it's not necessarily the case that there's any need to do it.
What about adding a defined contributions part to the plan? How would that function?
One of the driving forces on the part of some people, which I think has very little to do with the financial condition of the system, is to switch from a defined benefits plan to a defined contribution plan. A defined contribution plan is essentially an IRA or 501c3, which is, here's a certain amount of money, go invest it for your retirement, and whatever success you have investing your money, that's what you live with. Well, several implications of that. One is the result of individuals making their own retirement suggestions or decisions means some people will do better than others, but when retirement comes, those who made wrong choices or unwise choices don't have the money that's there. The defined benefit contribution, which is what the retirement system is, takes contributions made by and on behalf of every state, city, county, school employee, puts all that money in one basket and invest it. If you do that, you can hire good investment advisors. If you do that, you're saving on the percentage of your money that goes to investment advisors, and you're in a position that you can, over the long term, guarantee benefits to people. I think that's a very good system, and I think it's very disturbing to suggest that we stop this retirement system, which we have had for half a century, and shift to some sort of IRA or 401k type of proposition. I'm intrigued in because apparently there's been some concern about this. The Commission says, oh, we're not recommending that, we're just recommending you study it. Well, if they're not in favor of it, why are they recommending that it be studied? It seems to me that's, what's that word? Sophistry. Is that a real word?
That's a word.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Did I use it correctly?
Yeah. Question for you. How did the funding level drop by 2 points when PERS enjoyed a 25% rate of return last year? And the year before it was 14%.
Because the assumptions, one thing to remember is all of these actuarial assumptions are made based on, or the actuarial computations are made on assumptions that actuaries make. There are two things that go on. Number one is what goes on out there in the real world, and number two is what the actuaries assume and predict. The way the value of the system is calculated for actuarial purposes is on a 5-year rolling average. So the first figure that you mentioned did not take into account fully the collapse in the stock market from back when it was. And the current figures that they're using are taking into account more and more the reduced value of the stocks in the previous years, and some good years are rolling off. The short answer to that is because the 5-year rolling average that they use to calculate the market value of the system, or the actuarial value of the system.
But if you look at the recent impact actuary report, I think came out like about a month ago, if I'm not mistaken, theirs was 21%, but their funding level increased from 75 to 83%. So why is one fund over here going up to 8 points, but PERS is dropping 2 points?
I don't know what other
Impact, the college savings program.
I don't know what actuarial assumptions Impact is making.
8%.
I don't know that. I'm just not familiar with
Okay.
the actuarial assumptions they make. But it's more than the rate of return. It's how do you calculate the actuarial value of your assets.
Right.
I just don't know.
Right.